Welcome back into the show, Cut the Killer Carbs with Dr. Justin Anderson, Metabolic Coaching. MetabolicCoaching.net. Check it out on the web. Or Cut the Killer Carbs on Facebook. Of course, along the way, if you have any questions, phone lines will be open at all times. 745-5800. You can text in as well, 806-745-5800. Good morning, Doctor. How are you?
Good morning, Wade. I'm doing fabulous.
Ah, yes.
Fabulous as always.
You're feeling great, I bet, right? So you had a birthday recently, apparently, right?
I did have a birthday,
When was your birthday? Last Friday?
My birthday is September 23rd. So it was actually, my birthday is actually Saturday.
Oh, it's Saturday. Okay, because I saw you on Friday night.
Oh, yeah. So
we ran into you on Friday night, right?
Well, I went out to a birthday dinner, and I went to BurgerFi.
Yes.
I'll tell this part of the story. I went to BurgerFi, and at BurgerFi they'll give you, what do they call it? The green. I think they call it the green burger, no bun. And so I got the double bacon cheeseburger, and I had them add 2 extra meat patties to it. So I had a quadruple bacon cheeseburger on lettuce for the bun, and that was my really healthy, low carb birthday dinner.
Yes.
See, I was doing great
until you ran into me.
So then, why don't you tell that part of the story?
Oh, okay. So we had also been out to eat that evening, and we had gone across. We were
you and the health coach and the kids.
That's right, the health coach and the kids, and we were all having sandwiches at McAllister's. So you're at BurgerFi, we're at McAllister's. All right. And then the kids said, "Oh, Dad, can we go down to Marble Slab and get some ice cream?" And I looked at my kids and I said, "You guys can have some ice cream, but Daddy cannot. I've already had a sandwich that has bread on it." And I thought, man, I don't want to add any more sugar. So I said, but I mean, I'll skip the ice cream. I had a nice BLT there at McAllister's, and so I thought, man, we'll go on down there. So we stroll on down to the ice cream place, and lo and behold, there is Dr. Justin Anderson in there having some ice cream, a little bit of treat. And I thought, whoa, wait a minute, that's not you, is it?
Yeah. So we went to Marble Slab for my birthday to get an ice cream, and when I walked in, there's this table full of people sitting over there, and I look over. And this guy kind of hides his head, kind of hides his eyes like that.
You didn't recognize me at first.
No, I didn't recognize him.
I was in deep cover. I had a hat on.
You were in deep cover. You were using all your military skills.
Right.
And then so I ordered my ice cream, and as soon as I ordered an ice cream, Wade pops up from his table. Ha ha! Gotcha!
Yeah, you ordered a little small ice cream, and I said, I got ya.
Yeah.
Oh, here he is, Cut the Killer Carbs, folks, having a little bit of ice cream at Marble Slab, and I'm on it. Yeah, so it was like I was stalking you. But you enjoyed your ice cream. We had a nice little conversation. But I did ask you this morning on the way in, I said, well, did you enjoy your birthday ice cream? And by the way, did it make you feel bad afterwards when you had that insulin spike?
And so I'll tell you, the thing for me personally, and everybody's kind of different, is that if I do eat sugar, it doesn't really affect my joints or cause me to get achy or anything like that. It does make my wife achy. It does affect her joints. And
she wasn't having any. I didn't see her have any. You.
She was just doing that for you, Wade.
Oh, well, did she have some too?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see her.
No, she did.
I didn't see her eat any. I just saw you.
What we did is we went into Marble Slab and we ordered a mini, which is like the 1 scoop, and we split it between the 2 of us.
Oh, okay.
But so for me, it doesn't necessarily make me feel bad. But if I if I am less strict, and I don't like to use the word cheat, because the thing is, if you're doing the low carb diet, and you say that you cheat, then when you cheat, you're putting some sort of moral judgment on it, and it's like you're a failure. And it's not that
you're a failure.
Well, which can cause people to fall off the wagon, you know. If they say, "Oh, I cheated."
But what about your analogy? Wait.
Uh-huh.
Wait.
Go ahead.
What about your analogy last week on the show when someone called into the program and you told that caller at the time, you said, well, look, it's like cigarette smoking. You can't just say, oh, I'll just have one cigarette this week.
Yeah.
Wouldn't the ice cream that you were eating fall in that same category? Well, I just had ice cream for my birthday.
I would say yes for people who have like a sweets addiction or a sugar addiction. Yes.
I just had to throw that out there, right?
Well, the question is this. The question that I'll show this to you, Wade. And the question is, do I want to poison myself today?
A picture of a piece of cake.
With a picture of a beautiful slice of red velvet cake.
Oh.
And the answer is, sometimes the answer might be yes. Because if it's your birthday or if it's your birthday, then yeah, maybe you do want a slice of cake or ice cream or whatever it is. But you can't do it for your coworkers' birthdays and your friends' birthdays and your children's birthdays and your grandkids' birthdays, because then you end up eating a slice of cake twice a week, every week, and that's what gets you in trouble.
Well, see, look, here's the bottom line, doctor. Bottom line is you're skinny as a rail. People on radio can't see you, but they can go to the YouTube channel, I guess. Hello, we're broadcasting there. But nevertheless, but when you in person, you are a very thin person. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So obvious to me that if you have a little bit of ice cream here and there, it's obviously not affecting you, because the bottom line is we want to be healthy.
Well,
we want to be thin. We don't want to be 50 pounds overweight, for example, and that's definitely
Right.
not you. So I guess the moral of the story is you can get away with a little bit of ice cream every once in a while.
Well, what I usually
birthdays.
What I usually tell people is if you've reached your health goals, and you've lost the weight that you want to lose,
Okay.
and your blood sugars are better, your blood pressure is better, then maybe you can do something like that for your birthday.
Do you only do it once a year? I mean, how often would you have ice cream? Is it just that one time that I caught you, or would you say, oh, I might have it once a month?
Not once a year. About 4 days a week. No, I'm just joking.
I was gonna go about to almost drop my coffee. What?
Yeah, it's probably once every couple of months, something like that.
So once
Yeah.
every couple of months, you might have some ice cream.
I want to play you something, and I think the radio audience will be able to hear it. I want to play you something. This is from the seminar, the 2013. I did an original seminar in 2013, and this is the same seminar that I tell everybody to watch who comes through the metabolic coaching program, and I think it'll come through on the radio. I'll pop on my headphones and
okay.
see.
Are you gonna try to play it through that
Yeah.
microphone?
No, I'll just play it. I think it's loud enough. It'll come through.
Well, stick the microphone down, or grab that one. There you go, and then pull this one over if you want to talk. Right? You're gonna play it.
It's just it's just a minute long.
Okay, just a minute long.
We'll see if it plays.
Oh, I think it'll pick up if you put that right there, that microphone right there. It'll play. It'll work, because that's how Jim Stewart does his broadcasts. we know he still uses cassette tapes, and we don't have a cassette deck anymore.
This is kind of funny. So I'm sitting at the office, and one of the nice ladies at the office who works with me, she brought me a slice of red velvet cake. And the thought that went through my mind was, do I want to poison myself today? And that's what this conference is about. This conference is for you to recognize that these foods to you, they're not just foods, they're not just comfort foods, they're not just a roll, but they are poison to you. And for you to ask yourself that question when somebody brings you a piece of cake, do I want to poison myself today? And sometimes the answer might be yes, because when it's my birthday, guess what?
That's from
I'm gonna have
2013, Wade.
birthday cake on my birthday. But if it's not my birthday, I'm probably going to avoid the poison.
Okay, I'm gonna avoid the poison.
And so, really that's one of the things that we teach to people in the metabolic coaching course, is that if you have you know, you have this list of foods, the wheats, foods like wheat and gluten, anything that contains wheat, like breads and pasta, bagels, that sort of thing. And then the sugars and the high fructose corn syrup. And then the cereal grains like corn, rice, oats, potatoes, and other starchy foods. I mean, all of those foods for a certain percentage of the population, not for everybody, but for a certain percentage of the population, when they eat those foods, they get high blood sugar, or type 2 diabetes, or inflammation, or they get overweight or obese. And, you know, if I said, or it worsens their HDL cholesterol, worsens their triglycerides, worsens their inflammation, their heart disease risk, on and on and on, right?
Okay.
So, you know, for a certain percentage of the population, those foods cause all those bad things to happen. And if I walked up to you on the street and I said, look, I've got this vial, you know, if you take what's in this vial, it'll give you high blood sugar and diabetes and high blood pressure and heart disease, and give you high triglycerides and lower HDL and increase your risk for heart disease, and on and on. If I offered you what was in that vial, would you take it? Would you drink it? You know?
And the answer would be no, but when you look at the red velvet cake, there's more that goes into the red velvet cake than what you just described.
It looks good.
It looks good. It tastes good.
Well, I mean,
It's a comfort food.
What if I told you what's in the vial tastes like maple syrup?
I would look at it and go, that's nasty.
Yeah.
But the red velvet cake looks pretty sweet. Literally.
And so that's one of the ideas with the conference, is that you, or with the metabolic coaching program.
Yes.
Part of the metabolic coaching program is you get to the point to where you realize, oh, well, these foods aren't healthy for me. So if I'm going to have something like a slice of cake or a piece of ice cream or something, it's not harmless. And so, you know, if I'm gonna do it, then I'm going to pay the price for it, and that's okay. But once you make that mental leap, then you don't just mindlessly eat. You only eat something like that after some careful consideration.
Well, that's true. But what I find, then I think most people would, and again, where I fail on you know, restricting carbs and all that kind of stuff, is that I'll do good for a few days, all right?
Mm-hmm.
And then come Friday, I'll go to Cattle Baron, for example. You know, they've got a great
Chicken fry. Do they have a good chicken fry there,
They really
Wade?
do, with extra gravy,
Yeah.
my man. But I'll compromise. They'll say that comes with loaded mashed potatoes, and I'm like, oh no, I better just have rice.
Yeah, my feeling is that people people compromise themselves out of making any progress at all.
That's the problem. That's where I'm at. And then I'll say to myself, but wait a minute. I went carb free, or 20 grams or less, all week. I stayed away from the breads and the sugars, and I didn't eat any pasta. I pretty much stuck to, you know, proteins and salads, and I'm perfectly good with that, and felt good all week.
I'll tell you, if you do it for 6 months, and if you do it for 6 months, low carb, stay away from all the killer carbs, as I call them, and then on your birthday you want to go get a chicken fry, you'd probably do fine to do that.
Well, I may not want it, though, at that point. That's the point. See, that's the key. It might be that once I think the key is, this is my theory. My theory is, and you've said it before, but I agree with that. Well, I say it's my theory. You've said it, and I agree with it, so it wouldn't be my theory. But you've said once you get on the road to good health, then you don't want, and if you slip off and do something and then you feel bad afterwards, then you go, you know what? I really didn't realize how bad I felt until I did that, and I don't want to do that again.
And I can tell you,
that happens a lot.
You asked me if I felt bad after
the
eating ice cream on my birthday, and the
Yes.
answer was no. And that's because we got a small one and we split it between the two of us. But there have been some holidays like Thanksgiving or Christmas where we go to family's house and we eat. I still don't eat any bread or any gluten ever, period. But I found out that, well, this was either a Thanksgiving or a Christmas vacation, and so it's like after dinner and I'm supposed to be sleeping, and I just feel so nauseated, and like I'm gonna throw up, and I just spend some time in the bathroom just feeling nauseated and feeling horrible. And then after the fact, I learned, oh yeah, well the fruit salad had tons of sugar in it, or the whatever had tons of something in it that was like hidden. And so there have been times when, yes, when I've eaten it and I just feel nausea, when I've eaten something I didn't really even intend to, and I felt nauseated and felt horrible. So that has happened to me.
I was going to say, how often does that occur, or do you hear from patients of yours that have said, I'm doing great, but I went out to eat, or I did something, or went to a family gathering, or what have you, and I thought I was doing the right thing, but then I ate something and I felt horrible afterwards. How does that happen fairly frequently?
No, it's not that frequent. The most frequent thing is that people, they went to a family gathering or went to go visit family in some other state, and their family is cooking for them, and so they feel obligated, like they can't say no, or I don't eat that. And so they know that what they're eating is not on the diet, and they feel bad for a couple of days.
Physically feel bad.
Yeah, physically
not
bad.
Not just emotionally, but
usually there's nausea, bloating in the abdomen, joint pain. All those things are real common, and they usually last 2 or 3 days. And speaking about that, so that's an important thing. So when you go to visit someone, or family or friends, a way to not offend them when you tell them that you can't eat, that you're not eating bread, you're not eating sugar, you're not eating gluten, is to just say, this is something that Debbie said. It's a Debbieism. Debbie would tell them, I can't eat that because I'm allergic. It makes me break out in fat. And so that way it was like a food allergy. I'm allergic to that. I'm allergic to that food you guys eat. It makes me break out in fat.
Nice.
So, but that's, there are times when, people spend a lot of their time trying to take care of other people, trying to make sure your kids are safe and your wife's safe and their homework's done and your job. You got to do your job and do your work, but you have to spend a little bit of time and consideration taking care of yourself. And so it's hard for people to take care of themselves when they feel bad, and it's a lot easier when they feel better.
I think it is incumbent upon all of us who have children, responsibilities, jobs, whatever you feel like your responsibilities are, is that the old saying in investment and financial circles, of course we did the financial show on Monday, so I remember this from yesterday, is that we have to get into the mindset, like in the financial world, is that you need to pay yourself first. Yeah. In other words, for retirement,
that's right.
You need to pay yourself first before, a lot of people say, oh, well, I've got responsibilities. I've got to pay this and I got to pay that. Or if you own your own business, I got to make sure our payrolls are met. And I understand all those things. But, over time, if you're not paying yourself first, then you wake up one day and realize, man, I didn't pay myself first. And now, after all these years, I don't have anything to show for it.
Well, and
the same thing with this food deal.
Yeah, take care
and
of
health.
yourself.
If you're not taking care of yourself, then you're doing a disservice to those around you, because if you become in poor health, then they end up having to take care of you, and you don't want that situation, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean that's kind of what the way I would look at that. In that regard, if that makes sense.
We can take this call, and then I want to tell you that if you don't take care of yourself and you end up in the healthcare system, then you end up things can end up getting worse.
Yeah, they can. Good morning. Welcome into the show.
Yes, at first I want to say I really, really enjoy listening to Dr. Anderson. He gives me a lot of strength throughout the week.
Well, good. Thank you.
But one thing I was going to tell you on the subject you are on, I see a lot of people that I haven't seen in a year or 2 years, and people look at me and they say, "Are you sick?" And it's because I've lost, 50 pounds. And
congratulations, man.
Yeah, the first thing they say is, "Are you sick?"
Yeah.
There's a book called Fat Guy Friday, and it's written by a guy who's a Brit, and he says that when you go on a diet and you start losing weight, at first when you lose that first 10 pounds, all your co-workers and everybody, they're excited and they're supportive. You know, they're like, "Oh man, you look good, you lost 10 pounds." But then you lose the next 20 or 30 pounds, and they start saying, "Hey, wait, you know, he's not going to be able to keep doing this. He's going to fall off the wagon. It's not going to keep going. He can't do it forever." And then the third phase, after you get down to a normal body weight, I mean, you can just look up your BMI. Once you get close to your normal body weight, then people start saying, "Oh, are you sick? Do you have cancer? Is there something wrong with you?"
Right.
And that's the normal progression. Your friends and family, first they're supportive, and then they might say, "Oh, he's not going to do it. He can't keep going like this." And then normal body weight is when they say, "Do you have cancer?" And it's so strange because 2/3 of Americans today are overweight and obese, and so if they see somebody who's getting down close to normal body weight, they assume there's something wrong with them.
Yeah, they look sick.
Right, right. And then, of course, they ask, you know, I say, "No, it was on purpose." And they say, "How'd you do it?" And when I tell them, "Well, I eat everything the world says I shouldn't," and they're like, "What? You know, bacon and eggs and meat and beef and steak and pork and chicken and salad and vegetables," and they're like, "You lost weight eating that?" You know,
Yeah.
what I mean?
Eating stuff that tastes good, and that's what I tell people sometimes is, you know, we've been told for 30 years not to eat any of those foods because they're high in fat. And so I'll tell people, well, you just try it, you know, do it for 6 weeks or 3 months, eating all the foods that supposedly are supposed to make you fat and be bad for your cholesterol and bad for your blood pressure and your diabetes. Eat all of that, and then see what happens for you personally. And what happens is you start to lose the weight. Anything else improve other than just your weight?
Oh, absolutely.
Tell us about
blood pressure. Blood pressure went well. Really, the reason that I actually got started is my blood pressure was really high. I weighed a lot. You know, cholesterol's up. I mean, everything. At one time in my life, I've been up to like 220 pounds, and now I'm like at 160. So in my lifetime, I've had that big of a span. But I had a gastroesophageal reflux disease. I've been fighting it for about 30 years, and of course, it didn't matter what I ate. So I finally went in and had the fundoplication surgery and got that fixed. And actually talked to Dr. Ben about the surgery and all that before I did it. But I got that fixed, and I got off the proton pump inhibitors. And that's when I decided, hey, man, now's the time. You need to lose weight. You need to get healthy. You need to get your blood pressure down. And so from that time, I was in my doctor's office, and I think I weighed 207 pounds. And after the surgery and 6 or 7 months later when I went back in, I was like at 162, you know, fully dressed. And he's like, "Wow, what did you do?" You know, and I said, "Well, Doc, you're not going to like it, but I did it by eating all the bad stuff." Y'all say,
right.
But, you know, that's
exactly.
same old that. But anyway, so
another thing that helps, which some people may or may not be aware of, is the proton pump inhibitors. Those proton pump inhibitors like Nexium and Prilosec, today's purple pill, those things cause weight gain.
Yes.
And so, you know, and I see so many clients. I just got an email from a client who she's taken 3 different medications that cause, she's lost weight, she's at a plateau, she's taken 3 different medications that either cause weight gain or worsen insulin resistance. And so, you know, there's some of that, you have to start tapering off some of those medications, and that helps too. You do that under the direction of your doctor, you do it with your doctor, but that can have a big effect also in conjunction with the diet.
Yes, the last medication that I was actually on after I dropped the proton pump inhibitors, I'd gotten off everything except for, and I actually talked to you about it, was 81 milligram aspirin a day. So I continue to take that, but I did get with my cardiologist, and I talked to him, told him what I wanted to do, and I've been off of that now for several months. So
how many medications total were you taking kind of before you lost the weight versus after?
Well, really
One or
not
two,
not
or-
much. I was probably taking like 3.
3.
And I was taking 2 doses of the proton pump inhibitor a day. I mean, I've had gastro reflux for 30-something years, and not because of poor eating choices, but because my lower esophageal sphincter was just no good. I mean, it's
Mhm.
that's just
Didn't
what
close.
it was, and it's hereditary. Everybody in my family has it. But after I had the Torpay fundoplication, and I have not taken any of that medication in almost a year now. I have no heartburn. Of course, I eat right now too, so that helps. But
Yeah.
I was taking 2 of those a day, a baby aspirin, and at one time I was on a cholesterol pill, which I am medicine free now. I'm on nothing. So
Congratulations.
Yeah,
And so that's the other thing. The cholesterol pill, the cholesterol pills called the statins.
Yeah.
I have a thing published by the Mayo Clinic, and it just says the statins can worsen blood sugars, worsen insulin resistance, and worsen type 2 diabetes, and increase your risk of type 2 diabetes. So basically, if you can improve all your cholesterol numbers with your diet and get rid of the statin, that's a good approach. That's a good way to do it.
yes, and too, the world is stuck on that 200 for total cholesterol.
Right.
But Dr. Ben actually
right.
has a formula, and you use that formula to figure out your healthy range because of the fluffy and the non-fluffy cholesterol that's in your arteries and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So you use that. So really, I don't worry about that 200 mark so much as I do the small particles or the large particles, I guess. So,
I agree 100%. I do the same thing.
yeah,
I mean,
but
I look at the triglycerides. You want the triglycerides to be low, and they go low
Oh,
on
yeah.
a low-carb diet. You want the HDL, good cholesterol, to be high, and it goes high on a low-carbohydrate diet. And the type of, I don't look at the LDL number or the total cholesterol number. I look at the type of LDL. And
Right.
the type of LDL switches from the small, dangerous kind to the large, fluffy kind. And so all of those changes on a low-carbohydrate diet, they're all positive.
right.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't focus so much on just the number 200, it makes a big difference. Which I've never been, even the worldly number. I've been like 212, 214, and even at that 212, 214, I had a doctor put me on a statin.
Yeah.
And of course, my ignorance in it, the doctor said so, so I did it. But then after research and one thing and another, I ended up getting off of it because I didn't think it was healthy. But
And I can't remember what the book is off the top of my head. But basically, when they first started setting cholesterol targets for total cholesterol, it was anyone 240 or above needs treatment, and then it was anyone 200 or above needs treatment. And then LDL, I think I don't know if it was 160 at the beginning, but then it was 130, and then it was 100. And so, what they want those numbers to be keeps going lower and lower. And the cholesterol medications do lower the LDL number, but they don't change the type of LDL from the small, dense type that's associated with heart attacks to the large, fluffy type, like eating a low-carbohydrate diet does. So,
right. And the one thing that I didn't realize either, where they get those so-called averages is taken from the population of sick people too. I mean, some of them are sick. In other words, a laboratory might take in, 2,000 samples, and they run those numbers, and they pick the medium average and say this is what's average. When it could be wrong because they could be sampling more sick people or more healthy people. There's nothing to guide them in the right direction to say that's a true average.
Well, one thing that I always tell people to remember is that 1/2 of all people who go to the emergency room with a confirmed heart attack, so 1/2 of people in the emergency room with a heart attack have a normal LDL number.
Right.
Why
Yes,
is
sir.
that? Well, it's because LDL is actually, it's a pretty poor, it does have some predictive value for heart disease, but it's a pretty poor predictor, number one. And number two, there's 2 types of LDL. There's the small kind and the large kind. Your
Right.
doctor usually won't test you to see what kind of LDL you have. If you want that done, you can ask your doctor to do it, or you can order it yourself at any lab test now. and just have them do it, and they'll tell you. But I'll tell you that if people have high triglycerides and low HDL, they don't need to type their LDL because it's the small bad type.
Exactly.
However, if they have low triglycerides, which is a good thing, and high HDL, which is a good thing, then their type of LDL is more than likely the large, fluffy, good kind of LDL. But you can get it done. You just go to any lab test now and have it done, or have your doctor draw it.
Right, exactly. Okay. Well, like I said, I enjoy your show. I listen every week, and thank you. Just keep pressing on.
Well, thank you, and thanks for telling us your story. And I always like it because you're sharing a message of hope with people out there.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, so along that line, we had a text come in saying, okay, what about of carbs daily recommended? I know, but do you want to say?
Yes. So my wife and I, we just had this discussion this morning.
Okay.
And because people ask my wife, well, we had some friends over for dinner last night, and our friends, the husband has very high triglycerides, and everyone in his family has high triglycerides. He has a slightly elevated hemoglobin A1C, but it's not quite in the pre-diabetic range. I think 5.7 to 6.4 is pre-diabetic, and he's 5.6. So he's right on the cusp of being pre-diabetic. So high triglycerides, pre-diabetic. And so...
is he overweight?
He's not overweight, but he's big in his abdomen. You know, he has like abdominal obesity is what they call it. You know, it's when your waist is a lot bigger than your hips. Very skinny hips, but a big waist. It's kind of what they used to call a beer belly.
Sounds a lot like me. And my numbers are about the same, too.
And he, so they have started doing the low carbohydrate diet to help improve his blood sugars and his triglycerides. And they asked my wife, they said, how many net carbs do you eat a day? And my wife doesn't know because she's never counted it, okay? Because she's 39 years old, which is relatively young, she's a relatively young, premenopausal woman, and so for her, she doesn't have to be as strict as counting down to 20 net carbs per day. She eats very low carb, and I would guess her number's probably somewhere in the 20, if I'm guessing, the 20 to 40 net carbs a day range. But what I tell people start at, and so she's never counted carbs, but I tell people you should start counting carbs. You should count carbs at the beginning, and you should eat less than or equal to 20 net carbs a day. Less than or equal to 20 net carbs a day is enough to get almost everybody into fat burning, to get almost everybody into fat loss, to switch your body over from running on sugar to running on fat. And when your body runs on fat, you have more energy, your brain works more efficiently, you get rid of the brain fog, the blood pressure starts to improve. All these things happen pretty rapidly. You're not hungry. When you're in that kind of, I used to sometimes tell young women, start at 50 or 60 net carbs a day. But when they started at 50 or 60, they would get stuck. They wouldn't make any progress on the diet. And then I would say, well, that's no problem. Just cut down to 20. And they'd say, I can't do it. Because mentally, at the very beginning, when you start the diet, starting at less than 20 is it's easier to just cut out the carbs than it is to kind of ease out of the carbs. So less than or equal to 20 net carbs a day.
So to use an analogy, for example, stop smoking, you can take Chantix or just say, I'm throwing them away and never picking them up again.
Yeah, the number one way that people stop smoking is cold turkey. And so that's basically what you do when you go down to less than or equal to 20 net carbs a day, is you're going cold turkey on the carbs. And people, they may feel for somewhere, 70% of people, when they cut the carbs out, they feel great. No problems. 30% may get headache or flu-like symptoms, and it's kind of like a withdrawal. It's a withdrawal symptoms from withdrawing from the carbohydrates and the addictive sugar and the addictive wheat. So all that factors in together. And so for that 30%, you may not feel well for 4 to 14 days, and you come out the other side, and people usually feel kind of euphoric. They feel great, more energy. They feel like they're liberated, not hungry, not achy, not bloated. All of those things tend to go away quickly.
And then how much do you throw in intermittent fasting in on top of that? Only used if they plateau, or do you recommend that?
In general, I only recommend intermittent fasting if people plateau. However, some people's lifestyle is that they don't really like eating breakfast anyway. And so I'll tell them, look, if you're not hungry and you don't want to eat breakfast, don't eat breakfast. You can skip, because when you doing a low carbohydrate diet, a very low carbohydrate diet, less than 20 net carbs a day, lowers your insulin level by about 50%. And insulin is the fat storage hormone of the human body. So you want to lower your insulin level so you can lose weight and improve your diabetes, etc. But doing a fast, like an 18 to 24 hour fast, which means you eat dinner tonight and then you don't eat again until lunch, which would be 18 hours, or dinner tomorrow, which would be 24 hours, that lowers the insulin level another 50%. And so fasting is something that if it fits into your lifestyle, you can do. You can start it right at the beginning. Or fasting is something that we can add if you're stuck. And I would say that
I like fasting because I don't like to eat breakfast, and lunch for me is just kind of a pain in the butt. I mean, really, because I'm working and I'm thinking, and it's just almost, there for a long time it was automatic. 11:30 is just kind of a robotic thing. I got to go eat lunch. And then I realized, hey, I don't have to have lunch, and I don't eat lunch much anymore. I really don't.
And I have several clients who they eat one meal a day. One meal a day, every day. That's the same thing that Dr. Bailey does in Leveland, and he's been doing low-carb Atkins-style diet for 5 years to help him get off of 3 diabetes medications and 3 blood pressure medications and lose 100 pounds. Mm-hmm. And I have some other clients who do it. But the key is, and I have seen people, I have had clients come to me, they only eat one meal a day. But that one meal a day is full of rice and bread and carbohydrates and sugar. And it's enough to throw them off and cause them to be overweight or obese, get inflammation, thyroid disease, etc. So that one meal a day should be a low carbohydrate meal.
Another text coming in saying, I don't have any issue adapting to no sugar, no carb diets, but when I'm on that diet and I eat a bunch of carbs, I feel like I got hit with a tranquilizer 45 minutes later and wake up groggy.
Yeah, that's a blood sugar coma, So when you eat a bunch of carbs, what happens is your blood sugar is going to double. And so you might be sitting there running normal blood sugar, 80 to 90. You eat a bunch of carbohydrates, and within an hour, the blood sugar goes from 80 or 90 to 160, 180, 200. And when you get at that point, that's when you're kind of comatose. That's when you feel tired and that sort of thing. And then about another hour later, so at 1 hour, the sugar peaks and you don't feel well. 2 hours, the sugar drops and it dips and you feel hungry. And so you go through wanting to take a nap an hour after you eat to, I've got to eat again. I got to get something to get my sugar up 2 hours later. And that's what by avoiding the carbohydrates, you avoid all of that. And people say all the time, they're like, on this diet, I'm just not hungry. And they don't mean they're not hungry at regular meal times like a regular human being. They mean they don't feel like they need to eat every 2 hours. They don't get that shaky, hypoglycemic feeling like they need to eat something. And that happened to me when I cut the carbohydrates out of my diet. I was amazed that at 10 a.m. in the office, I wasn't ready for a snack. I was like, this is great. I'm not hungry. I don't feel starving. I feel great. But there would be some days at 10 a.m. when I'm sitting in the office and I'd get that shaky, hypoglycemic feeling like, I got to eat something right now. I need a snack. I need something. And I would think, I haven't been hungry in months. Why do I feel this way? It's because that day I didn't have time to make my own breakfast. Like if I was usually eat something like eggs, bacon, sausage, or I would make a protein smoothie that had plenty of fat in it. But if I didn't eat my own breakfast, I just ate what the kids ate that day, and so I had oatmeal. And the oatmeal made me starving 2 hours later. Or I had something like cinnamon raisin toast, which made me starving 2 hours later. And so if you do get that feeling like, I've got to eat something right now, your hands are shaking, you feel kind of low blood sugar. Well, if you're diabetic, you should check your sugar. If you're not diabetic, think about what you ate 2 hours before, because it's what you ate 2 hours before that's making you hungry now.
Yeah, that's like when I go to, the Japanese place or something, and I say, yeah, give me extra fried rice with that, and I load up and eat a ton of that stuff, and then amazingly, 2 hours later, I'm starving again.
You're starving. Yep.
And I'm like, man, I was full like a tick walking out of that place. Man, I'm full and feeling good. And then 2 hours later, I'm like, man, I think I might run over to Taco Villa. Seriously. It would drive my wife crazy. She would say,
well,
are you kidding? I'd go, well, I'm hungry. I don't know what to say.
You're exactly right. It's the carbs that drive that hunger 2 hours later, number one. Number two, if you're eating Asian food, a lot of times they use a lot of MSG. And the MSG also is an appetite stimulant. And so that doesn't help either.
And that's really not good for you. The MSGs are notoriously bad.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to, and read labels too. I think it goes without saying. What my wife does as a health coach, she actually will take her clients to the grocery store, and she'll walk through the grocery store with them, and she'll say, because people, I'm always amazed, by the way. And again, I always just take this stuff for granted, like, everybody knows that, but really they don't.
Right.
And I was at the grocery store on Sunday. We were getting some cheese and some other stuff, getting some kids' lunches, because kids always take the lunches to school. They don't eat the school lunches because they're garbage. I mean, there's out-and-out garbage at the school cafeteria. We know that. So they always take their lunch. So she told me, and it was Sunday afternoon, and I certainly was not watching the NFL. I was kind of hanging around, and she goes, hey, you want to go with me to the grocery store? And I said, yeah, because I'm not watching football today.
Right.
And she goes, well, I got to go get kids' lunches. And I thought, okay. But I go, and I'm looking around, and I just noticed what people have in their grocery baskets. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, Lucky Charms, on and on and on. I see the powdered donuts and all these kinds of things. And I'm going, 12-pack of Cokes, and I'm thinking, man, all that sugar and carbs and all that. And while we're, shopping around and getting fresh vegetables and things like that. But back to my wife, she'll actually take people out and say, now you need to label, you need to read.
Yeah.
You really, really have to read. I mean, okay, everybody understands, okay, this is a tomato. And she would prefer organic.
And so, the best
but
thing
I mean,
is
there's an organic tomato sitting there. Everybody knows.
The best thing is to get the food that doesn't have a label, right?
Okay, and everybody knows that.
Right.
But what do you got in your basket?
You got to turn all those around and read the
labels. You got to read and know what's in there.
And that's
because a lot of hidden stuff, canola oil, all kinds of weird stuff.
That's what clients do in the program. Is the first thing they're looking at is net carbs. How many net carbohydrates. To calculate net carbs, you just take the total carbohydrates, print it on the label, and subtract out the fiber.
Yeah.
And all that a net carb is it's a gram of carbohydrate that your body will turn into sugar. So it's a gram. Every carbohydrate that you eat, whether it's from actual table sugar or a donut or bread or a potato, your body turns that into regular sugar, blood sugar, inside your stream. So they calculate in your bloodstream. So first of all, they calculate net carbohydrates. Second of all, look on the label to see if there's any wheat or gluten, because wheat and gluten tends to be inflammatory for a lot of people. And third of all, look for sugar and all the names of sugars. And one of the tricks that food manufacturers do is they'll have, say on the Lucky Charms, it'll say number one ingredient. I don't know this for sure, but some cereal or whatever, number one ingredient will be whole grain, wheat, rice, whatever.
Which sounds healthy.
But then after that, they'll have high fructose corn syrup, regular sucrose, dextrose, and something else. So they'll have 3 or 4 or
yellow
5
number 5
different kinds of sugar. And the reason they have 5 different kinds of sugar is that way they can write the label without sugar being the number one ingredient. Because sugar is really the number one ingredient in the cereal. But by dividing it up into 4 or 5 different kinds of sugar, they have smaller amounts, and so that it looks like the number one ingredient is whole grain instead of being sugar. But
yeah, or even worse. And I saw this where a lot of food manufacturers are getting into the organic game, and that's good. That's good to a certain extent.
Right.
But you think you look at a box and just a label. Like I was walking through the same store, that Sunday afternoon and at the grocery store, and they had on sale organic mac and cheese for $1 a box. And I'm thinking, man, that's a smoking deal. I ought to pick up a couple of those. And my wife was like, what are you doing? I go, well, for the kids, not me. I was like, but I mean $1 for organic. But you she says, read the label. And I said, okay, turn over, read the label. It says organic Durham, organic wheat Durham, or whatever,
right.
Made with organic wheat Durham-based pasta. And she looked at me and she goes, yeah, it's organic, and okay, that's probably better than if it had glyphosate sprayed on it, but it's still going to spike your insulin. You realize that, right? And I go, oh, yeah. So, I mean, but because it's the big words, though, on the front of the box, organic. Yeah. People go, oh, healthy, and they get it, and they put it in the car.
And I think, and so we did that for a long time. This is before I did low carb. We bought organic bread and organic pasta and organic tortillas, whatever, and buying all that organic. Buying all those organic carbs is what made me fat. This caller, he said, I think he'd been up over 215 or 220. And, that's what I was. I was 213 and a half pounds. And today,
how much do you weigh now?
169.
That's outrageous.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm 6'1".
And 169?
I weigh 169 pounds. And
I weigh 225, baby.
Don't worry, Wade. We'll get that off you. This is your problem, Wade.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, I know. When I came back from Iraq, I was 179.
No, your problem is that if we got you on a very low carbohydrate diet.
Yes.
We got all that weight off you. You'd have so much energy. Your wife, your family, your kids, the people at the radio station wouldn't know what to do with you.
It's very hard. I mean,
you would be in too good a shape.
Well, here's the thing. What gets me is that I'm one of those unique individuals that, yes, I know I'm overweight. I've been down to, when I was 179, I felt really good. I mean, I really did, I admit. When I was 179 and probably 12-15% body fat, now I'm probably 26 to 30 and 225. But here's what's weird, doctor. I don't feel bad, and I'm not on any medications.
All I'm saying is you're gonna feel you're gonna feel too good.
I feel
when you
fine.
get on the program.
Oh, I know, but I do work out still, and I work out 5 days a week, and I know we don't talk about exercise much, but I'm a firm believer in throwing in some cardiovascular and strength training, no matter what you're doing. Because I know this, about 4 months ago, maybe I told you, maybe I didn't, but about 3 or 4 months ago, I, for whatever reason, just stopped working out. I didn't lift any weights. I didn't run. I didn't, do my HIIT training.
Felt bad.
High intensity. Did I feel bad? I felt like I was going to have to go to the hospital. I mean, literally, I felt that terrible. And my wife is always, and my wife doesn't ride my case. I mean, of course, she's really,
She's in good shape, Wade.
She's in great shape. It drives me crazy because she, weighs 110. And she's like, when it lose 2 pounds? I'm like, oh, please. But anyway, that's beside the point. The point is, though, is that I did go 4 weeks, didn't do anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I just ate normally. I mean, my normal is, I do eat a lot of carbs, and, but I guarantee after that 4 weeks, I felt like crap.
Yeah.
And so then I started going, because
and you started going back to the gym.
And I went back to the gym.
And how much weight did you lose when you went back to the gym?
I really didn't.
And
I was stabilized.
you felt better, and that's one thing exercise can do.
It made me feel better.
Exercise can make you feel better. It can change the way your body looks. It can add muscle mass. It can add bone mass, strengthen
Density,
your bones.
Yeah, it does.
Those are the great things that exercise can do. But a lot of us think that exercise is going to help us lose the weight,
And it does not.
and it just doesn't happen.
I'm living proof of that. There's no way that you can go to a gym or even at home. I work out at home, but there's no way you can outwork out a poor diet. I mean, I know that now.
Yeah.
But for years, and I've always been a really good, consistent exerciser with cardiovascular and strength and all that. I've been consistent in that, but I've also noticed that one little drop off in the exercise, man, I start gaining weight quickly. Case in point, so so after that happened, and then I started, me and you were talking on the radio. I said, man, I'm gonna start trying to do some of these things that Dr. Anderson's talking about. So I started purposely eating breads and staying away from the sugars and continued my workout. And then all of a sudden, something magical started happening. At that point, I was up at 237. Okay. And within a month, I dropped 10 pounds. So now I bounced down 10, 15 pounds and feel pretty good, but I'm thinking that's really not good enough. But if I slip up and go back to a normal carb diet and still exercise, the weight loss stops, but I still feel good. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you feel better.
I feel better
Because exercise can help people feel better.
Right, and that's
I'll tell you my story about exercise, which was about 4.5 years ago when I cut the carbohydrates out of my diet. I decided, look, I'm done eating all the carbs. I'm done eating the bread and pasta and grains and rice, all that sort of stuff, and I'm going to start working out. And so for 3 months, I went to the gym and I'd do cardio, do some strength training. And during that process, I lost about 30 pounds over 3 months. But then things started getting busier at home. I wasn't able to go to the gym. I didn't exercise anymore. I just totally stopped going to the gym. And I knew the weight was going to come back on. Because this was before I'd done a lot of research and a lot of reading, and I thought the exercise must have been what helped me lose the weight along with the diet. And when I stopped going to the gym, I lost another 10 pounds. And so the exercise wasn't what was driving my weight loss. It was the diet.
Right.
Doing the very low
You're
carbohydrate
absolutely
diet
correct
was
about
what
that.
was driving my weight loss.
Absolutely spot on about that.
And so, in the last 5 years, I did decide I was going to go back to the gym again, I don't know, a couple years ago, I think it was 2 years ago maybe. But anyway, I decided I was going to go to the gym again. And so I went to the gym for about 3 months. Weight didn't change. My knee just started hurting, and running on the treadmill or doing jogging, that makes my knee hurt. And so anyway, the net result of going back to the gym for a few months 2 years ago was knee pain. So anyway, I gave that up. And so I would say that in the last 5 years, I've exercised about 3 months at the beginning, and then 3 months somewhere in the middle of that 5 years, and that's it. And I've been able to lose the weight and maintain my weight loss for 5 years. It's the diet. It's not exercise when it comes to weight loss.
That's true. But if you want to change your body composition, you're gonna have to lift weights.
If you want to add muscle,
Right.
you're gonna have to lift weights. And
That's true.
And if you there's something that some people call skinny fat. And skinny fat is when you're like a skinny guy, but you're flat. You're soft. You're soft. You're kind of flabby. And so that if you want to change the skinny fat, to where you have more muscle, then you do that. I'll tell you, I'll do a few chin-ups here and there, a few pull-ups, and that's about the extent of my exercise. Because I can, in my backyard, I can grab onto a bar, do a few pull-ups. All right, got it. Exercise is done.
I couldn't do it. I think exercise is in my DNA because
The other thing,
I ran track. I was a state cross country runner all the way, through high school, I joined the Army at 18 years old. The Army obviously big on physical fitness. I mean, that's one of their primary deals. You got to be physically ready to go to battle at any moment kind of deal. And so I've enjoyed, that's been for my entire adult life, has been about exercise. The diet has been the biggest stumbling block in my health, if you will, because, back when I was in my 20s, I could eat anything. And, when I was in my 20s, I weighed 145, 150 pounds maybe.
Yeah.
And maybe an inch shorter than I am now, maybe. Right now I'm currently 5'10". But, 5'10" and 220, that's not working. I mean,
Right.
5'10" and 220. I mean, the Army would even say, even for my age, and they give you a little bit of leniency the older you get. They figure away the older you get. That's just natural occurring. But even for my height and weight, according to the U.S. Army standard, I should weigh no more than 186 pounds at 5'10".
We'll get you there, man.
And so, if I was still on active service, they would say, "Okay, Sergeant Wilkes, you got to get a tape test done here, fat boy." And usually I'd fail the tape test, but I would pass the PT test, the exercise part. And but they'd say, "Well, yeah, you passed the physical portions. You ran fine. You did 40 push-ups, you did 45 sit-ups for my age group. The physical part you passed with flying colors, or actually you met 70% or better. But according to the tape, your body mass index is over 25. It might be 26, and the max allowable would be 25. I would always come in 1%. So I would, starve myself for about 3 weeks, come back in, hit 24 BMI, and they'd go, good to go. That's what I played that game for 20 years with the Army.
The other thing about exercise is that exercise is stressful. It is a form of stress on your body. And I really like Dave Asprey's approach to exercise. He's the author of The Bulletproof Diet, a great book. Anybody can get it. But Dave Asprey says you should work out hard and do it 1 day a week. 1 day is your workout and get 6 days to recover, and then do it again. So you get in a good 4 workouts a month.
Yeah, okay. Well, I exercise about 4 to 5 times a week, but they're short intervals. I mean, I used to do the really long hour and a half. I don't do any of that anymore. I've figured out that my body, and especially as I get older, that about 30 to 35 minutes 4 times a week, if you do it right, is way plenty for me. And I would submit for most people, because they're not playing in the NFL kind of stuff. And but the point of it is, doctor, if you throw that on top of your plan and or with intermittent fasting, see, that's what I was talking about last week on the show, I guarantee I'll be down to 180 in no time if done right. But
come on out on Friday.
Come on out, Doc. Come on out. It's always a pleasure. We're out of time.
Invitation is open. Bring the health coach with you.
Yes.
We'll go through the whole 2-hour program. We'll get you guys set up, written instructions.
She doesn't need it. Are you kidding me? She's
yeah,
like...
but she would just like to learn it. She's a learner.
Oh, she knows.
She's a learner.
She knows all about it. Believe me. All right. Dr. Justin Anderson, everybody. MetabolicCoaching.net. Check us out. Cut the Killer Carbs on Facebook and the website MetabolicCoaching.net. 448-0322. Thanks, Dr. Anderson. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you back here next week on Cut the Killer Carbs. Stick around now. Unconfused coming up next.